Finding your purpose in everyday life is not a luxury. It's the foundation of living a life that feels real. That's the mindset shift most people never make. Too many wake up every day, rushing through routines, chasing tasks, and checking boxes. But at night, they still feel empty. Why? Because they've mastered activity but forgotten meaning. Purpose is not something you discover once in your lifetime. It's something you practice in your daily choices. The way you wake up, the habits you keep, the actions you take, all shape whether your life feels meaningful or wasted. This audiobook is not about theories or distant promises. It's about practical steps that show you how to bring purpose into your mornings, your evenings, and every space in between. If you've ever felt like your days slip away without real progress, this is your answer. Stay with me, because together we will build a life where every day carries direction, energy, and meaning. This is Finding Your Purpose in Everyday Life. Chapter 1. Start your morning by choosing one clear priority. When you wake up in the morning, your mind is fresh, your body is rested, and your day is an empty page. In that quiet moment before the noise of the world takes over, you have the most valuable choice of all. What will matter most today? Most people never stop to make that decision. They roll out of bed, pick up the phone, scroll through the news, answer messages, and before they know it, the day has already chosen for them. If you want to find your purpose in everyday life, you must begin by shaping your mornings with intention. That's where it starts, one clear priority, chosen by you, before the world interferes. Purpose is not some grand event waiting for you years from now. Purpose is built in the daily actions you decide are important. The danger is, without clarity, your energy gets scattered. You try to do too much, you get pulled into everyone else's demands, and by the end of the day, you feel like you worked hard but accomplished very little. That cycle drains people. It makes them feel as though life is passing by without meaning. You break that cycle by choosing one clear priority in the morning and protecting it until it's done. Now, what does that look like in real life? It means when you wake up, you sit quietly for a moment and ask yourself, what is the single most important thing I can do today that will move me closer to the life I want? Not 10 things. Not a long to-do list, just one. Maybe it's finishing a project you've been delaying. Maybe it's making an important phone call. Maybe it's spending uninterrupted time with your family. That one decision sets the tone for your entire day. You'll notice something powerful when you follow through on your priority. You feel progress. And progress is what creates meaning. Human psychology is simple in this way. People feel satisfied not when they do everything, but when they do what matters most. Think about how many days you've ended feeling exhausted, yet unsatisfied. That's not because you were lazy, it's because your energy was spread too thin. The mind is wired to crave completion. When you finish one meaningful task, your brain rewards you with a sense of achievement. That achievement builds confidence, and confidence is what keeps you moving forward. Without that, you stay stuck in circles. Choosing one clear priority also trains discipline. Discipline is not about working endlessly or punishing yourself. Discipline is about clarity. When you say, "This matters more than anything else today," you're practicing focus. And focus is rare. Look around at most people, they're constantly distracted. They're chasing urgency instead of importance. They're reacting to messages, notifications, and endless small tasks. That's why they feel overwhelmed. But you're different the moment you decide to control your mornings. That single act separates you from the average. Think of how your day changes when you honor one clear priority. If you wake up and commit to writing 2 pages of your book, by the evening you've moved closer to your dream of becoming an author. If you wake up and commit to exercising, by the evening you've invested in your health. If you wake up and commit to learning one new skill, by the evening you're wiser and stronger. It doesn't sound like much when you look at a single day, but add up those days and you'll see transformation. Purpose is not discovered in one big breakthrough, it's built brick by brick through consistent priorities. The truth is, most people fail not because they don't have goals, but because they don't protect their time. Every morning gives you a new chance to decide what's important. If you don't, the world will decide for you, and the world rarely chooses in your favor. You have to guard your time as if it's the most valuable thing you own, because it is. Money lost can be earned back. Opportunities missed can sometimes return. But a day wasted is gone forever. That's why mornings matter so much. There's also an emotional shift that happens when you wake up and decide what matters. You feel in control. You start the day with confidence instead of confusion. People underestimate how powerful that feeling is. When you begin your day with clarity, your emotions follow. You walk taller, you speak with certainty. You carry less stress because you already know what's most important. Even if other things go wrong, you can finish the day knowing you completed what mattered most. That single choice brings peace of mind. Now, let's talk about the psychology of decision-making. When you wake up and pick one clear priority, you reduce decision fatigue. One of the reasons people feel exhausted is because they make hundreds of small choices all day long. What to do, where to go, what to focus on. That constant shifting drains mental energy. But if you choose your priority early, you save yourself from endless back and forth. You know where your energy belongs. That frees your mind and makes you more productive. Some people might say, "But I have so many things to do. How can I pick only one?" The answer is simple. Not everything is equal. Some things matter more. The human mind often confuses activity with progress. Just because you're busy doesn't mean you're moving forward. The skill you need is to separate what is urgent from what is truly important. Urgency shouts for attention, but importance builds your future. When you choose your one clear priority, you're deciding to invest in the long term rather than being trapped in the short-term noise. It's also important to make your priority measurable. Don't just say, "I want to work on my business." Instead, say, "I will complete one key task for my business today." Don't just say, "I want to be healthier." Instead, say, "I will walk for 30 minutes today." Vague intentions don't lead to results. Clear priorities do. Your brain responds to clarity because it knows exactly what success looks like. When success is clear, motivation becomes natural. Another powerful benefit of starting your morning with one clear priority is building momentum. Momentum is the energy that comes from consistent progress. When you complete one meaningful task in the morning, you build momentum for the rest of the day. You feel like a winner, and that confidence spills over into everything else you do. On the other hand, when you start your morning scattered, you often carry that confusion into the rest of the day. That's why the first choice you make in the morning has such a lasting impact. Finding purpose in everyday life doesn't require waiting for perfect conditions. It doesn't require knowing your entire future plan. It requires winning today. And you win today by choosing one thing that matters and finishing it. Imagine the kind of person you become after weeks and months of living this way. Someone with discipline, someone with focus, someone with clarity. That is the person who builds a meaningful life, step by step. Here's the truth: your purpose is not something outside of you waiting to be discovered. Your purpose is built through daily actions. When you choose your morning priority, you're shaping who you are. Over time, the collection of those choices reveals your larger purpose. You begin to notice patterns, what you enjoy, what you value, what makes you feel alive. That awareness grows into confidence. confidence grows into vision, and vision shapes your future. Every day offers you two choices: drift or direct. Drifting means letting the day take control. Directing means deciding where the day will go. If you drift, life feels empty, because you're living by default. If you direct, life feels meaningful, because you're living by choice. The first step of directing is deciding your morning priority. Now think about how this connects to resilience. Life will test you. Unexpected problems will come. Distractions will appear. But if you wake up every morning and decide what matters, you train resilience. You train the ability to focus despite challenges. And that is a skill that carries into every part of life: business, relationships, health, and personal growth. People often ask, how do I stay motivated? The answer is, you don't wait for motivation. You create it. And the way you create it is by taking action. Action produces results. Results build motivation. The cycle begins with one decision every morning: what matters today. So tomorrow, when you wake up, don't rush. Don't start with your phone. Sit quietly for a moment and ask yourself that one question: what is the single most important thing I must do today? Write it down. Commit to it. Protect it until it's done. Do that for a week, and you'll notice more control. Do it for a month, and you'll feel stronger. Do it for a year, and you'll look back at a life transformed. This is how you begin finding your purpose in everyday life. Not in faraway dreams, not in someday plans, in the discipline of your mornings, in the clarity of your choices. In the power of one priority finished every single day. That is where purpose begins today. In the next morning you wake up, when you choose one thing that matters and follow through until it's complete. From there, everything else in your life starts to take shape. Chapter 2. Reflect daily on your feelings to know yourself. When you live your days without reflection, life becomes mechanical. You wake up, go through the motions, complete your tasks, and fall asleep again without ever asking yourself what those actions truly mean to you. Over time, that routine can create a sense of emptiness, because progress without awareness feels hollow. The truth is, if you want to understand your purpose in everyday life, you must take time to reflect on your feelings. Feelings are not random, they are signals. They reveal what excites you, what drains you, what aligns with your values, and what pulls you away from them. By reflecting daily, you give yourself the gift of knowing yourself in a way most people never do. Daily reflection does not require hours of silence in a quiet room. It can begin with a few minutes in the morning or evening, when you pause and ask, how did I feel today? This simple act of checking in with yourself builds awareness. Without it, people often misinterpret their emotions. They assume they are angry at others, when in reality they are frustrated with their own choices. They believe they are tired from work when they are drained because they worked on things that held no meaning. Reflection clears the fog. It separates confusion from clarity. Knowing yourself is the foundation of building a meaningful life. If you do not know your inner world, you will be swayed by the outer world. People without reflection often chase what others value, not what they truly desire. They follow trends, opinions, and expectations. They live for approval rather than alignment. Daily reflection protects you from that trap. It helps you see your true feelings instead of living by borrowed beliefs. When you become familiar with your inner voice, you are less likely to be controlled by outside noise. The process is simple but powerful. At the end of each day, sit quietly and recall the moments that stood out. Ask yourself, when did I feel alive today? When did I feel drained? What moments gave me energy? What moments took it away? These questions turn vague feelings into clear insights. Over time, patterns will emerge. You might realize that certain activities always make you feel motivated. You might notice that some relationships constantly leave you exhausted. You may discover that certain tasks, even if they seem small, bring you a deep sense of satisfaction. These insights are not just interesting, they are essential. They are the roadmap to your purpose. Daily reflection also gives you emotional balance. Most people carry emotions without processing them. They hold on to stress, frustration, and fear without ever examining them. That weight builds up until it becomes overwhelming. But when you reflect daily, you release those emotions in small doses. You recognize them, understand them, and decide what to do with them. That habit prevents emotional overload. It gives you calmness and clarity, even in the middle of challenges. Another important point is that reflection helps you see the link between your choices and your feelings. Many people move through life reacting to situations without ever noticing the connection between what they do and how they feel. They work jobs that leave them empty, but they never pause to admit that truth. They stay in habits that drain them, but they never stop to ask why they continue. When you reflect daily, you confront those realities. You notice that when you spend time on meaningful tasks, you feel proud. When you waste hours on meaningless distractions, you feel regret. That awareness strengthens your discipline because you no longer want to repeat the actions that create negative feelings. To make reflection effective, you must practice honesty. It is easy to ignore uncomfortable truths. It is tempting to justify poor choices or pretend feelings don't matter. But real progress comes only when you face yourself fully. If you feel unhappy, admit it. If you feel uninspired, acknowledge it. If you feel excited, recognize it. Reflection is not about judgment, it is about awareness. Once you see yourself clearly, you gain the power to make better choices. Self-knowledge also improves your relationships. When you understand your own emotions, you communicate with more honesty. You know when to ask for support, when to step back, and when to express appreciation. People who never reflect often project their unprocessed feelings onto others. They become reactive, blaming others for emotions they do not understand. But those who reflect daily approach relationships with maturity. They know what they feel, they know why they feel it, and they take responsibility for their actions. That creates trust and respect in every connection. Reflection is not just about looking back. It is also about looking forward. When you take time each day to review your feelings, you can set intentions for tomorrow. For example, if you felt drained by unnecessary distractions today, you can decide to focus more sharply tomorrow. If you felt joy spending time on a creative task, you can commit to making space for it again. This forward-looking reflection transforms feelings into practical action. It makes each day a stepping stone rather than a repetition. Human psychology shows that unexamined emotions shape behavior unconsciously. People may sabotage their own success without realizing it because they are driven by feelings they never address. Reflection shines light on those hidden drivers. You begin to notice, I avoid this task not because I lack skill, but because I fear judgment. Or, I push myself into exhaustion not because I am dedicated, but because I am trying to prove my worth. These realizations are uncomfortable, but they are powerful. They allow you to stop living on autopilot and start living with awareness. Purpose is discovered through patterns. By reflecting daily, you recognize consistent signals. You notice that certain activities always bring fulfillment. You see that certain environments always energize you. These repeated observations point to what truly matters to you. Without reflection, you might dismiss those signals as coincidence. With reflection, you see them as guidance. Over time, you build a clearer picture of your personal path. It is also important to reflect on gratitude. In the rush of daily life, people often focus only on what went wrong. They overlook the moments of progress, kindness, or growth. Reflection balances that. By asking yourself, "What am I grateful for today?" you train your mind to notice the good. This doesn't mean ignoring difficulties, it means holding both truth and gratitude together. That balance keeps your perspective strong. It prevents negativity from dominating your mindset. Daily reflection requires consistency. Doing it once or twice is not enough. The true impact comes from repetition. Just as physical exercise strengthens the body, mental reflection strengthens self-awareness. Over time, it becomes a natural part of your routine. You begin to check in with your feelings automatically, adjusting your actions before problems grow. That consistency shapes a stronger, more intentional version of yourself. Reflection also gives you clarity in decision-making. Life presents countless choices, both big and small. Without self-awareness, those choices can feel overwhelming. But when you know your feelings, you know what aligns with your values. Decisions become simpler. You can say yes to opportunities that resonate and no to distractions that don't. That decisiveness saves time, reduces stress, and builds confidence. The habit of reflection also strengthens resilience. When difficulties arise, people who reflect daily are better equipped to handle them. They are not surprised by their emotions because they are familiar with them. They know how to process fear, frustration, or sadness. They understand their triggers and their strengths. That awareness allows them to face challenges with stability instead of panic. They bend, but they don't break. Reflecting on feelings also deepens your ability to experience joy. Many people rush through life without fully enjoying the good moments. But when you pause to reflect, you savor them. You recall the smile of a friend, the satisfaction of finishing a task, the peace of quiet time. By noticing those feelings, you amplify them. You remind yourself that life has meaning not just in big achievements, but in small moments of truth. If you want to apply reflection in a practical way, start with a journal. Each day, write down your feelings in simple words. Do not worry about style or grammar. Just record what you felt and why. Over weeks, read back your entries. You will notice patterns you never saw before. That journal becomes a mirror, showing you who you are becoming. Even if you don't write, you can still reflect through quiet thought or conversation with someone you trust. The method matters less than the consistency. Over time, daily reflection builds self-respect. You begin to trust yourself because you see that you are paying attention to your life. You stop running blindly and start moving intentionally. That trust in yourself is essential for finding purpose. Because purpose is not handed to you, it is uncovered through self-knowledge and action. In the end, reflection is about living with awareness. It is about refusing to go through life as a stranger to yourself. It is about asking, what did I feel today, and what does that mean for tomorrow? When you practice that daily, you become more than someone who exists. You become someone who lives. That shift gives you direction, resilience, and meaning. Purpose is not found in ignoring your feelings, but in understanding them. Your feelings are not weaknesses to be hidden, they are guides to be studied. Reflect daily, know yourself deeply, and you will find that each day carries its own purpose, waiting for you to live it fully.
Chapter 3. Do one meaningful task before the day ends. Every day you are given 24 hours, and whether you are rich or poor, young or old, those hours pass the same way for everyone. The difference between people who grow and people who stay the same is not found in how many things they do, but in whether they choose to do something meaningful before the day is finished. One task of real value done with focus carries more weight than a list of empty activities that only keep you busy. The truth is, your sense of progress, your self-respect and your inner strength are built on what you decide to complete each day. If you want to find your purpose in everyday life, you must train yourself to end the day with one meaningful task accomplished. A meaningful task does not need to be dramatic or world-changing. It is not measured by how others view it, but by how it connects to your growth, your goals, and your values. For some, it might mean making a phone call that has been avoided for too long. For others, it could be reading a chapter of a book that will expand their mind. It could be exercising, having an honest conversation with a loved one, or finishing an important piece of work. What matters is not the size of the task, but the depth of its meaning to you. When you commit to completing one meaningful task before the day ends, you break the pattern of drifting through life. Too many people live as though days are disposable, wasting time on distractions and routines that bring no progress. Then when weeks and months go by, they wonder why nothing has changed. But one task each day is different. It keeps you accountable. It builds momentum. It creates a trail of progress that adds up over time. There is a psychological power in completion. The human brain is wired to crave closure. When you start something and do not finish it, your mind remains restless. But when you bring something to completion, you release that tension and create satisfaction. That sense of satisfaction is not just emotional, it builds discipline. You begin to believe in your own ability to follow through. The more often you experience that, the stronger your self-trust becomes. And when you trust yourself, you stop doubting your potential. Doing one meaningful task before the day ends also sharpens your focus. Many people spend their days reacting to demands, moving from one distraction to another. They answer emails, scroll through messages, handle small requests, and convince themselves they were productive. But when the day closes, they feel unfulfilled because none of it truly mattered. By setting the standard of finishing one meaningful task daily, you cut through that noise. You teach yourself to focus on what counts, not what is merely urgent. Another benefit is that this practice removes the weight of regret. Few things hurt more than ending the day with the thought, "I wasted my time." That feeling slowly drains motivation and creates a sense of helplessness. But when you end your day knowing you finished something meaningful, you carry a different energy. You feel a quiet pride. That pride is fuel for the next day. It builds a cycle of achievement that strengthens you over weeks, months, and years. Now, how do you decide what task is meaningful? Start by asking yourself 3 questions. Does this action move me closer to the life I want? Does it reflect what I truly value? Will I feel proud to have finished this at the end of the day? If the answer is yes, then it qualifies as meaningful. You don't need to overcomplicate it. Meaningful tasks are often simple, but their impact compounds with time. Writing a single page daily can eventually create a book. Saving a small amount of money each day can eventually bring financial freedom. Speaking one kind word each evening can strengthen a relationship. Meaning builds through consistency, not occasional bursts. Some people avoid meaningful tasks because they feel overwhelmed by the size of their goals. They think if they can't do everything, they shouldn't start at all. This is a mistake. Purpose is not found in doing everything perfectly. It is built through steady progress. By focusing on one meaningful task each day, you break down overwhelming goals into manageable steps. You no longer freeze in fear of the big picture. You simply win today, and tomorrow you win again. Over time, those small victories create a transformation. There is also a discipline of timing. The day often fills up quickly with obligations, and if you do not protect your meaningful task, it gets pushed aside. That is why you must decide early and commit. When you identify your task, write it down and hold yourself accountable. Do not wait for perfect conditions. Do not delay until the last minute. Guard it as though it were the most important appointment of the day, because it is. Finishing one meaningful task also reshapes your identity. Every action you complete tells your mind who you are becoming. When you end the day with progress, your inner voice says, "I am someone who follows through. I am someone who builds." This identity becomes a powerful motivator. It strengthens resilience when challenges appear. Even on days when everything else seems chaotic, completing your meaningful task keeps you aligned with who you want to be. This practice also creates clarity for the future. By tracking what tasks feel meaningful, you discover patterns. You begin to notice what excites you, what grows you, and what fulfills you. These observations become a guide toward your larger purpose. You no longer chase random opportunities, you follow the path revealed by your consistent actions. That clarity reduces confusion and strengthens confidence. Ending each day with a meaningful task also improves rest. Many people go to bed restless because they feel unfinished. Their minds race with thoughts of what they should have done. But when you complete something meaningful, you close the day with peace. You sleep with a sense of accomplishment. That rest is deeper, and the next day you wake with more energy. Another psychological benefit is that meaningful tasks train you to value quality over quantity. The modern world pressures people to do more, to stay busy, to constantly chase activity. But busyness is not progress. In fact, it often hides the fear of facing what truly matters. By setting the standard of one meaningful task daily, you shift from chasing numbers to pursuing depth. That shift brings you closer to purpose, because purpose is never found in busyness, it is found in significance. This practice also teaches patience. When you focus on one task at a time, you resist the urge for instant gratification. You begin to see the value of slow, steady effort. You realize that growth does not happen in one leap, but in thousands of small, meaningful steps. That patience builds resilience. It keeps you steady when results take longer than expected. It keeps you from quitting when progress feels slow. Some days will test you. Fatigue, stress, and distractions will make it tempting to skip your meaningful task. But those are the days when the habit matters most. Completing your task on difficult days proves to yourself that you are stronger than your circumstances. It proves that you can keep your word even when it is not easy. That consistency builds character, and character is the foundation of a purposeful life. This discipline also influences others. When people see you committing to daily progress, they are inspired to raise their standards. Your consistency becomes an example of what is possible. You show them that meaningful growth is not a mystery, but a choice repeated each day. In this way, your personal practice contributes to something larger. It creates a ripple effect that influences family, friends, and even strangers. Doing one meaningful task before the day ends also teaches gratitude for time. You begin to see each day as valuable, not disposable. You stop taking time for granted because you understand that each day is an opportunity to create progress. That awareness makes you more intentional with how you spend your hours. You stop wasting energy on empty distractions and invest more in actions that matter. If you practice this consistently, you will notice a transformation in how you feel about yourself and your life. Instead of drifting through weeks and months, you will see steady growth. Instead of ending days with regret, you will end them with pride. Instead of wondering about your purpose, you will be living it in real time. Purpose is not waiting in the distance, it is built in the daily discipline of finishing what matters. So each evening before the day closes, ask yourself one question. What can I finish today that will make me proud when I close my eyes tonight? Choose it, do it, and complete it. That single act will give your day meaning, your life direction, and your future strength. One meaningful task, done daily, is the foundation of a purposeful life. Chapter 4. Identify habits that weaken you and replace them. Every person has routines that quietly shape the direction of their life. Some of those routines push you forward, while others silently hold you back. The truth is, your future is written not in what you occasionally do, but in what you repeatedly do. Habits are powerful because they operate without much thought. They run in the background, guiding your actions and influencing your results. If you want to live with purpose, you must face an uncomfortable but necessary truth. Some of your habits are weakening you, draining your energy, stealing your time, and keeping you from the life you want. The good news is, once you identify them, you can replace them with habits that strengthen you. This is one of the most practical steps to finding purpose in everyday life. The first step is awareness. Most people never stop to notice the routines that control their days. They wake up, repeat the same patterns, and wonder why their life feels stuck. Habits often hide in plain sight. They disguise themselves as comfort, as normal behavior, or as small harmless choices. But when added up, they shape the quality of your life. Take a simple example: staying up late scrolling through distractions. At the moment it feels small, but over time it weakens your energy, steals your focus, and leaves you tired every morning. That single habit sets a negative tone for everything else. This is why awareness is crucial. You cannot change what you refuse to see. To bring clarity, start tracking your daily actions. Write down how you spend your time from morning to night for a week. Be brutally honest. Include the hours wasted on distractions, the food you eat, the conversations you have, the moments you avoid responsibility. At first, this may feel uncomfortable, but discomfort is the doorway to growth. As you look at your record, you will begin to notice patterns. You will see the habits that lift you and the ones that weaken you. The very act of observing them reduces their control over you. Weakening habits come in many forms. Some are physical, such as neglecting your health, eating poorly, or avoiding exercise. Others are mental, like negative self-talk, constant complaining, or comparing yourself to others. Still others are behavioral, such as procrastination, lack of planning, or wasting time on activities that bring no value. Each of these chips away at your potential. They do not destroy you in a single day, but they erode your strength slowly until you no longer recognize the person you could have become. Once you identify weakening habits, the next step is replacement. You cannot simply stop a habit and leave an empty space. The mind dislikes emptiness. If you try to quit a habit without replacing it, the old pattern will return, or a new negative one will appear. The key is to replace weakness with strength. For example, if you find yourself wasting time on endless scrolling, replace that time with reading something that expands your mind. If you recognize that you avoid difficult tasks, replace that avoidance with a system of breaking tasks into smaller actions and finishing one at a time. Replacement is about creating a better alternative that serves the same purpose but strengthens you instead of weakening you. This process requires honesty. Many people protect their bad habits with excuses. They say, "I just do this to relax," or "It's not that bad," or "Everyone else does it." But excuses do not protect your growth. They only protect your weakness. When you face your habits directly, without excuses, you gain power over them. That honesty may sting, but it is the first real step toward freedom. Replacing habits also requires patience. No habit, whether strong or weak, is formed overnight. It is built through repetition. That means replacing habits will take time. At first it feels unnatural. The old patterns pull at you. Your mind resists change. This is normal, but with consistency, the new habits take root. Eventually, what once felt forced becomes automatic. That is when transformation happens. Not in a single decision, but in daily repetition until the new pattern becomes part of who you are. It is also useful to understand the triggers of your habits. Every habit is connected to a cue. For example, boredom may trigger mindless eating. Stress may trigger scrolling through distractions. Fatigue may trigger procrastination. If you want to replace weakening habits, you must identify and interrupt the triggers. Instead of responding the same old way, create a new response. When boredom hits, choose a productive activity. When stress appears, go for a short walk, or write down your thoughts instead of escaping into avoidance. By changing your response to triggers, you break the automatic cycle of weakness. Another practical step is to start small. Many people fail at changing habits because they attempt to overhaul everything at once. They declare, from now on, I will quit all my bad habits and change my life completely. That ambition sounds inspiring, but it usually leads to quick burnout. The better approach is to pick one weakening habit at a time. Replace it with a single strengthening habit. Build consistency with that, and then move on to the next. Change compounds over time. The person who steadily replaces one weak habit after another builds a life of strength and purpose. It is important to recognize that habits are not just actions, they are identities in disguise. Every habit you practice sends a message to yourself about who you are. When you procrastinate, you reinforce the identity of someone who avoids responsibility. When you waste time on distractions, you reinforce the identity of someone who chooses comfort over growth. On the other hand, when you complete tasks on time, you reinforce the identity of someone reliable. When you exercise daily, you reinforce the identity of someone who values health. Replacing habits is not only about changing behavior, it is about reshaping who you believe yourself to be. Support also plays a role. Habits are influenced by environment and people. If you are surrounded by people who normalize weakening habits, it becomes harder to change. If your environment constantly tempts you into old patterns, your willpower will eventually run out. That is why you must adjust your surroundings. Remove triggers from your environment. Create systems that make good habits easier to follow, and bad habits harder to continue. Choose to spend time with people who live with discipline, because their example will strengthen your own. Replacing weakening habits with strengthening ones also builds resilience. Life will always bring challenges, but the habits you carry determine how you face them. A person with strong habits has the discipline to adapt and endure. A person with weak habits crumbles under pressure. When you build habits that support your health, your mindset and your productivity, you create a foundation that carries you through difficulty. You are no longer controlled by emotion or impulse, you are guided by discipline and choice. One of the greatest benefits of replacing weakening habits is the sense of freedom it creates. Bad habits feel like comfort in the moment, but over time they trap you. They steal your energy, limit your growth, and keep you stuck in cycles of regret. Good habits may feel demanding at first, but they create long-term freedom. They give you health, confidence, focus, and progress. When you experience that freedom, you never want to go back to weakness. This process also deepens your sense of purpose. Purpose is not a sudden revelation, it is built through daily alignment with values. When you remove habits that conflict with your goals and replace them with habits that support them, your life begins to feel consistent. You no longer live with the inner conflict of wanting one thing while practicing the opposite. That alignment brings peace and clarity. It makes each day feel meaningful because your actions match your vision. Another insight is that replacing habits strengthens your self-respect. Every time you choose discipline over weakness, you prove to yourself that you can be trusted. That trust builds confidence. Confidence fuels further action. Over time, you look at yourself differently. You no longer see someone trapped by bad routine. You see someone capable of growth, someone committed to becoming stronger. That shift in self-perception is one of the most powerful results of this practice. To make this work, you must also forgive yourself for past habits. Many people stay trapped because they carry guilt over their old patterns. They tell themselves, "I've been like this for years, so I'll never change." That belief becomes a prison. But the truth is, your past habits do not define you. What defines you is the choice you make today. Reflection is important, but guilt is unnecessary. Use your awareness of past habits as fuel for change, not as chains to hold you down. When you identify weakening habits and replace them, you are not only changing your daily life, you are shaping your future. Every new habit builds a stronger foundation. Every replaced habit frees you from hidden chains. Every day you practice this discipline, you move closer to your purpose. In time, the small decisions you make today will add up to a life that feels meaningful and alive. So take a clear look at yourself. Notice the routines that weaken you. Be honest about their cost. Then decide what habit will replace them. Do it consistently, one choice at a time. Over weeks and months, you will notice the difference. You will feel lighter, stronger, more focused. You will see yourself living with greater clarity and direction. That is how you find purpose in everyday life, by replacing weakness with strength, day after day, until your habits reflect the best version of yourself.
Chapter 5. Spend quiet time alone to hear your mind. In today's world, it is easy to be surrounded by constant noise. The television speaks, the phone vibrates, conversations run endlessly, and responsibilities pull you in every direction. But in all of this noise, one voice often gets ignored: the quiet voice of your own mind. If you are serious about finding your purpose in everyday life, you must learn to spend quiet time alone. Not to escape the world, but to connect with yourself. That time is where you hear what truly matters, where you notice thoughts you usually push aside, and where you build the inner strength to make decisions with clarity. Most people avoid silence because it feels uncomfortable. They would rather keep themselves busy than sit with their thoughts. But that discomfort is exactly the reason silence is powerful. When you give yourself permission to sit quietly without distractions, you start to notice the truth you've been avoiding. You hear the worries you bury under activity. You see the dreams you ignore because they feel too big. You become aware of emotions you never had the time to process. Silence is not empty. Silence is full of information if you are willing to pay attention. Quiet time alone does not mean isolation from the world forever. It means creating moments each day where you are not influenced by noise, where you are not reacting to messages, where you are not pulled into everyone else's demands. It may be 10 minutes in the morning before the day begins. It may be a walk without headphones. It may be sitting in your room without the television or your phone. What matters is that you create space to listen. That space is where your purpose begins to take shape. When you spend quiet time alone, your mind begins to settle. At first it may race with random thoughts, plans, worries, and memories may crowd your attention. But if you stay with the silence, the surface noise fades, and deeper thoughts appear. These deeper thoughts reveal what you truly want and what you must change. They show you what excites you, what drains you, and what feels missing. Without quiet time, those thoughts stay buried under the noise of daily life. One of the greatest benefits of silence is clarity. Decisions that feel complicated often become simple when you sit quietly and reflect. Many times people make poor choices because they never stop long enough to think clearly. They rush into actions, influenced by pressure, without hearing their inner guidance. But quiet time slows everything down. It allows you to examine your feelings before acting. It creates distance from the noise of the world, so you can choose with wisdom instead of impulse.
Quiet time also builds emotional strength. The habit of being alone with your mind teaches you not to fear yourself. Many people fill their days with distractions because they are afraid of facing their own thoughts. But when you learn to sit quietly and listen, you develop resilience. You prove to yourself that you can handle your emotions instead of running from them. Over time, that resilience makes you stronger in every area of life. This practice also helps you release stress. When you are constantly busy, your body and mind carry tension. Quiet time creates a pause. In that pause, your breathing slows, your muscles relax, and your thoughts become lighter. You give yourself permission to reset. That reset restores energy and focus, making you more effective when you return to daily responsibilities. Quiet time is not wasted time. It is investment time, where you restore the clarity and strength needed to live purposefully. Spending quiet time alone also deepens your self-awareness. You begin to recognize your patterns of thought. You notice which ideas repeat, which emotions surface often, and which worries consume your mind. This awareness is essential because it shows you where change is needed. You may realize that much of your stress comes from fear of judgment. You may discover that you feel alive when you think about a certain dream. You may notice that anger or sadness returns whenever you remember a specific choice. Awareness of these patterns allows you to address them instead of being controlled by them. Another important benefit is creativity. Silence is where new ideas are born. When the mind is quiet, it has room to imagine. Many of the greatest discoveries, books and inventions began in quiet reflection. If you always fill your life with noise, you block the creativity that could change your future. But in quiet moments, connections form. You see possibilities that were hidden before. You generate solutions to problems that once felt impossible. Creativity thrives in silence, because silence gives your mind space to breathe. Quiet time is also an opportunity to reconnect with your values. In daily life, it is easy to lose sight of what matters. You get caught up in urgency, deadlines, and distractions. But when you sit quietly, you ask yourself, what do I really want my life to stand for? What kind of person do I want to become? These questions bring you back to what is important. They remind you of the bigger picture beyond the daily noise. When practiced consistently, spending quiet time alone develops discipline. At first, it may feel unnatural or even difficult. Your mind may resist. You may feel restless, but with practice, it becomes a habit. Over time, you begin to look forward to it. That discipline carries over into other areas of life. If you can control yourself enough to sit quietly and listen to your mind, you can control yourself enough to build other positive habits. Quiet time also improves relationships. It may seem like an individual practice, but it directly influences how you connect with others. When you are aware of your own thoughts and emotions, you bring more clarity and honesty into your relationships. You communicate more effectively because you know what you feel. You avoid unnecessary conflicts because you have processed your emotions before reacting. You give others the best of yourself because you are not drained by unexamined thoughts. Purpose cannot be found without reflection, and reflection requires silence. You cannot hear your true desires in the middle of constant noise. You must create moments to listen. That listening does not require special tools. It requires willingness. The willingness to turn off the phone, to close the laptop, to step away from the crowd, and to give yourself time alone. That willingness opens doors to understanding yourself on a deeper level. The practice of spending quiet time alone also builds confidence. When you spend time with yourself, you stop relying only on outside voices for validation. You begin to trust your own judgment. You stop needing approval for every choice. That self-trust is one of the strongest forms of confidence. It allows you to move through life with certainty, even when others disagree or doubt you. Another important aspect is that quiet time creates balance. Life often pulls you toward extremes, working too much, socializing too much, or escaping into distractions, but silence brings balance. It reminds you that being still is just as important as being active. That balance keeps you grounded. It prevents burnout. It ensures that your progress is sustainable, not temporary. Quiet time also strengthens gratitude. When you slow down and reflect, you begin to notice the small details of life that often go unnoticed. The sound of your breathing, the beauty of your surroundings, the progress you've made, the people who support you. These realizations build gratitude. Gratitude deepens your sense of meaning. It shifts your focus from what is missing to what is present. That shift makes life feel richer and more purposeful. The most important reason to spend quiet time alone is that it connects you with your purpose. Purpose is not something you stumble upon in the noise of busyness. It is something you hear in the silence, when you ask yourself the right questions and give yourself time to listen. Each quiet moment adds a piece to the puzzle. Each reflection moves you closer to clarity. Over time, those moments reveal a direction that feels true. To live with purpose, you must not only act with intention, but also listen with attention. Action without reflection becomes empty. Reflection without action becomes wasted. Quiet time is the bridge between the two. It shows you what matters and strengthens you to act on it. So give yourself that space. Spend quiet time alone to hear your mind. Do it daily, even if only for a few minutes. Protect it from interruptions. Treat it as essential, because it is. In that silence, you will discover clarity, strength, creativity, gratitude, and most importantly, yourself. And when you know yourself, you can live with purpose every single day.
Chapter 6. Ask yourself daily if this life feels right. Every day you live moves you one step further in a direction, whether you are aware of it or not. The real question is whether that direction is one you actually want. Too many people keep moving without stopping to ask themselves if the life they are living feels right. They keep going, busy from morning until night, but never pause long enough to examine whether this path is truly theirs or just one they fell into. If you want to find your purpose in everyday life, you must practice the discipline of asking yourself daily, does this life feel right? That question may seem simple, but it has the power to shape your entire future. When you ask yourself this question honestly, it forces you to pay attention to what you've been ignoring. Maybe you've been working hard, but deep down you feel disconnected. Maybe you are surrounded by people, yet you feel alone. Maybe you keep achieving goals, but they no longer excite you. Without asking this question, you might continue repeating routines that no longer serve you. But when you stop and face the truth, you gain the awareness needed to adjust your path. Asking yourself if this life feels right is not about judging everything as perfect or terrible. It is about alignment. Do your daily actions align with your values? Do your choices bring energy or do they drain you? Do you feel that your time is being spent on things that matter to you, or are you only living for obligations? These are not questions society will answer for you. They are questions only you can answer, and they can only be answered if you create the habit of asking them regularly. The human mind has a natural tendency to adapt to routine, even when that routine is not healthy. You can get used to living in a way that does not feel right, simply because you repeat it every day. That's why so many people wake up years later realizing they've been living someone else's version of life. They never paused to ask themselves whether the life they were building was one they actually wanted. You can avoid that mistake by checking in daily. One simple moment of honesty can save you from years of misdirection. The question, does this life feel right, also helps you notice small signals before they grow into major problems. If you feel constant stress, emptiness, or lack of excitement, those signals are telling you something needs to change. Without paying attention, you may ignore those signals until they become burnout, broken relationships, or regret. But with daily reflection, you catch them early.
You notice the small discomforts and adjust your actions before they grow into crises. When you ask yourself this question, you are showing that your feelings matter, your desires matter, and your life matters. Too many people dismiss their inner voice. They convince themselves to stay quiet, to accept things as they are, to push their feelings aside. But when you consistently ask if your life feels right, you refuse to silence yourself. You honor your own experience. That builds self-respect, and self-respect is the foundation of meaningful living. To make this practice effective, honesty is required. It is easy to lie to yourself, to pretend things are fine when they are not. Many people numb themselves with distractions so they don't have to face uncomfortable truths. But if you want real growth, you must be willing to answer truthfully. If the answer is no, if something doesn't feel right, you must face it directly. That does not mean you must have all the solutions immediately. It simply means you are willing to admit the truth. And once you admit the truth, you gain the power to change. Asking this question also brings clarity to your priorities. When you reflect daily, you begin to see patterns. You may notice that certain activities always leave you feeling satisfied, while others leave you feeling empty. You may notice that time spent on meaningful work feels energizing, while time spent on distractions feels like wasted life. These patterns reveal what truly matters to you. Once you see them, you can shift your energy toward the things that bring alignment and away from the things that don't. It's important to understand that life will never feel perfect every day. Some days will be hard, and that does not mean you are on the wrong path. The goal is not perfection. The goal is direction. Even in struggle, life can feel right if the struggle is meaningful. The key is distinguishing between necessary challenges that help you grow and unnecessary pain caused by living in a way that is not aligned with your values. Asking yourself daily helps you see the difference. This practice also builds courage. When you realize that certain parts of your life do not feel right, it can be scary. Change often feels uncomfortable. But ignoring the truth is more damaging than facing it. By asking yourself this question daily, you train courage. You teach yourself to confront reality instead of hiding from it. Over time, that courage becomes strength. You become someone who lives by choice, not by default. One of the strongest benefits of this habit is clarity in relationships. If you regularly ask yourself whether life feels right, you begin to evaluate the people you spend time with. Are they adding to your growth, or are they pulling you away from it? Do they support your vision, or do they distract you from it? Relationships have a powerful impact on your sense of purpose. Without reflection, you may tolerate connections that weaken you. With reflection, you recognize the truth and begin to build relationships that align with who you want to be. The question also strengthens your ability to make decisions. Life is filled with choices, and each choice carries you closer to or further from your purpose. When you ask yourself daily if your life feels right, you develop a clearer sense of direction. That clarity makes decisions easier. You stop saying yes to things that don't fit. You stop wasting time on what doesn't matter. You start choosing actions that feel true to you. That decisiveness builds momentum, and momentum is essential for progress. This daily practice also prevents regret. Many people look back years later and wish they had lived differently. They regret ignoring their feelings, avoiding their dreams, or staying in situations that didn't serve them. But regret is not caused by failure. It is caused by silence. By not asking themselves if life felt right, they missed the opportunity to adjust. When you reflect daily, you protect yourself from that regret. Even if you make mistakes, you make them consciously. You live with awareness, not blindness. Asking this question daily also deepens gratitude. When the answer is yes, when life does feel right, you recognize it. You appreciate the progress you've made, the people who support you, and the growth you've experienced. Too often people rush through life without appreciating the moments when things are aligned. Reflection helps you notice them. That gratitude fuels motivation to keep moving in the right direction. The act of questioning also keeps you awake to possibility. Without reflection, life can shrink. You begin to believe that what you have now is all there is. But when you ask yourself if this life feels right, you open your mind to alternatives. You begin to imagine what else is possible. You start to see opportunities that were invisible before. That mindset keeps you growing instead of settling. Consistency is the key. Asking yourself once in a while is not enough. You must build the habit of asking daily. This way you stay connected to yourself at all times. You prevent drift. You prevent years from passing without awareness. Daily questioning keeps you on track, adjusting as needed, always moving closer to a life that feels authentic. This practice is not about comparing yourself to others. It is not about asking if your life looks right from the outside. It is about asking if it feels right on the inside. Too many people live for appearance, chasing approval while ignoring their inner truth. But purpose is never about appearance. Purpose is about authenticity. The only person who can answer whether your life feels right is you. Over time, asking this question transforms you. You become someone who listens to yourself, who respects your own feelings, who lives with awareness and intention. You no longer accept a life that feels wrong. You create a life that fits who you are and who you want to become. That transformation is not sudden. It is gradual, built through the daily practice of reflection and adjustment. But eventually it changes everything. So as each day closes, pause and ask yourself, does this life feel right? If the answer is yes, celebrate it and keep building on it. If the answer is no, be honest about what needs to change. Then take one step, however small, in the direction of alignment. That is how you find purpose, not in distant dreams, but in daily questions that guide your choices. Each honest answer moves you closer to a life that not only looks right, but truly feels.
Chapter 7. Protect your time by refusing meaningless activities. Time is the most valuable resource you will ever have. You can recover lost money. You can rebuild lost opportunities, but you can never regain a single wasted day. The reality is that many people do not lose their lives all at once. They lose them slowly, piece by piece, through meaningless activities that steal hours without giving anything back. If you want to live with purpose, you must learn to protect your time by refusing to engage in things that do not matter. This is not about being selfish. It is about being intentional. It is about choosing wisely where your energy goes, because where your energy goes is where your life goes. The first step in protecting your time is recognizing what qualifies as meaningless. Meaningless activities are not always obvious. They disguise themselves as harmless distractions, casual habits, or social obligations. You tell yourself you are just scrolling for a few minutes, just watching another episode, just saying yes to another invitation you don't care about. But those just one more choices add up. Hours disappear, and with them disappears the progress you could have made towards something that truly matters to you. The danger of meaningless activities is not their immediate cost. It is the hidden cost they accumulate over time. To protect your time, you must be brutally honest about the difference between what adds value to your life and what simply fills space. Value does not mean work alone. It can mean rest, learning, connecting, or creating. The test is whether it leaves you better, stronger, or closer to your purpose. If an activity drains you, distracts you, or leaves you with regret afterward, it does not belong in your life. By refusing those activities, you are not losing out. You are making space for what truly matters. Many people waste time because they fear disappointing others. They say yes when they want to say no. They accept commitments they do not care about, all because they want to avoid conflict or rejection. But every time you say yes to something meaningless, you are saying no to something meaningful. You are stealing from your own future to protect someone else's comfort. Purposeful living requires courage.
the courage to refuse, the courage to protect your hours, the courage to live by your priorities rather than by everyone else's demands. Another reason people give their time away is because they underestimate its value. They think of time as endless, as though there will always be more, but once a day is gone, it is gone forever. The most successful and fulfilled people are not those who do everything, but those who carefully guard what they give their time to. They treat their time as treasure. They do not allow meaningless activities to steal it. They say no more often than they say yes, and because of that, they are able to focus fully on what truly matters. Protecting your time requires self-discipline. Distractions will always be available. There will always be more entertainment, more gossip, more unimportant tasks. The question is whether you have the discipline to say no. Discipline is not about punishment, it is about direction. It is about choosing the path that leads to growth instead of the one that leads to emptiness. Every time you refuse something meaningless, you are strengthening that discipline. Over time, you build a habit of protecting your time, and that habit becomes one of your greatest strengths. One way to practice this is by asking yourself before every decision, will this matter to me tomorrow? Will this matter to me a year from now? If the answer is no, then it is not worth your time today. This simple test helps you separate what feels urgent from what is truly important. It prevents you from wasting hours on things that give you nothing in return. It reminds you that your time is not infinite, and therefore it must be guarded with care. Protecting your time also means setting boundaries. You must be willing to create limits for yourself and others. That may mean limiting how much time you spend online. It may mean cutting down unnecessary social interactions. It may mean dedicating certain hours of the day only to meaningful work or personal growth. Boundaries are not about shutting the world out. They are about creating space for your best self to show up. Without boundaries, your time will always be consumed by the demands of others. With boundaries, you reclaim control over your life. It is also important to recognize that not all activity is progress. Many people mistake busyness for productivity. They fill their schedules with endless tasks, thinking that more activity means more value. But being busy is not the same as being purposeful. You can be busy all day and still accomplish nothing of meaning. Protecting your time requires questioning not just whether you are active, but whether your actions are significant. Doing one thing that truly matters is worth more than doing 100 things that don't. Another benefit of refusing meaningless activities is the energy it frees up. Time and energy are connected. When you waste time on things that don't matter, you drain energy that could have been used for growth. But when you focus only on meaningful actions, your energy rises. You feel alive, engaged, and motivated. This is why people who protect their time seem to achieve more. They are not drained by meaningless distractions. They are fueled by meaningful direction. This practice also builds respect from yourself and from others. When you treat your time as valuable, people begin to treat it the same way. They know you do not waste it, so they are less likely to waste it for you. And within yourself you build pride. You look back at your days knowing you used your time wisely, and that pride builds confidence. Over time, that confidence becomes one of the strongest motivators for living with purpose. Protecting your time also requires honesty about your habits. Sometimes the most meaningless activities are the ones you've repeated so often that they feel natural. They may not look destructive from the outside, but they quietly drain your potential. Maybe it's constant distraction, unnecessary arguments, or indulging in activities that do not move you forward. Identifying these habits is uncomfortable, but necessary. Once you see them clearly, you can replace them with habits that strengthen you. It is important to remember that time wasted is not just hours lost, it is opportunities lost. Every hour you spend on meaningless activities is an hour you could have invested in learning, creating, improving your health, or deepening relationships. Opportunities are built through consistent investment of time. When you refuse meaningless activities, you create space for opportunities that would have otherwise been crowded out. That space is where growth happens. Another reason to protect your time is that it sharpens focus. When you stop scattering your hours across meaningless activities, you concentrate your energy on what truly matters. That focus brings depth. Instead of making shallow progress in many directions, you make real progress in one, and it is depth, not scattered effort, that creates lasting change. This discipline also prevents regret. People often regret the time they wasted more than the mistakes they made. Mistakes can teach you, but wasted time gives you nothing. By refusing meaningless activities, you protect yourself from that regret. You build a life that you can look back on with pride instead of disappointment. Protecting your time also strengthens your sense of freedom. At first, it may feel restrictive to say no, but soon you realize that by saying no to what doesn't matter, you are saying yes to what does. You are freeing yourself from obligations that don't serve you. You are reclaiming control over your life. That freedom brings peace of mind. It allows you to live intentionally instead of reactively. To make this habit practical, start small. Each day, identify one meaningless activity you will refuse. Replace it with something meaningful. Over time, this practice compounds. Soon your days are filled with actions that align with your values. Your energy rises, your progress accelerates. You feel more in control of your life. That is how purpose is built, not by adding more noise, but by cutting away what doesn't matter. In the end, protecting your time is one of the clearest ways to respect yourself. It shows that your life is valuable, that your hours are important, and that you will not waste them on things that leave you empty. Every day you are given a choice. Spend your time carelessly, or invest it wisely. The person you become depends on that choice. Refuse what is meaningless. Choose what is meaningful. Protect your time and you will discover that purpose is not something distant. It is something you create, one guarded hour at a time.
Chapter 8. Track small wins daily to build real confidence. Confidence is not something you are born with, and it is not something that suddenly appears when life feels easy. Confidence is built piece by piece, through effort, action, and results. Too many people wait for a big achievement to feel confident, but that waiting only delays progress. The real path to confidence begins with noticing and tracking small wins every single day. When you acknowledge what you accomplish, even if it seems minor, you strengthen the belief that you are capable. That belief grows over time until it becomes a foundation of unshakable confidence. The mistake most people make is thinking that only big victories count. They overlook the daily progress they are making because it feels ordinary. But every skill learned, every task completed, every step taken toward growth is a win. Small wins matter because they compound. One small win today becomes momentum for tomorrow. When you track them, you create a record of progress that fuels motivation. Without that record, you may convince yourself that you are stuck, even while you are moving forward. Tracking small wins changes the way you view yourself. Human psychology is heavily influenced by evidence. Your mind looks for proof to confirm what you believe. If you constantly tell yourself you are failing, your mind will search for evidence of failure. But if you record your small wins, you give your mind evidence of success. That evidence shifts your self-image. You begin to see yourself as someone who follows through, someone who grows, someone who builds results. That shift in self-image is where real confidence begins. To build this habit, you need to develop the discipline of notice. At the end of each day, ask yourself, what did I accomplish today, no matter how small? Did you finish a workout? That's a win. Did you read a few pages of a book that expanded your mind? That's a win. Did you take care of a task you've been putting off? That's a win. Each of these may seem small on its own, but together they form a chain of progress. When you track them, you can see the chain clearly, and that vision pushes you forward. This practice also protects you from discouragement.
There will always be days when big goals feel far away. If you only measure progress by the final result, those days will leave you frustrated. But when you track small wins, you see progress even in difficult times. You realize that every step counts, and that realization keeps you motivated when others give up. Confidence does not come from perfection. It comes from persistence, from the steady act of doing and acknowledging your progress along the way. Tracking small wins also develops gratitude. It shifts your focus from what you lack to what you've gained. Many people weaken their confidence by constantly focusing on how far they still have to go. They compare themselves to others who seem ahead. But when you track your own wins, you focus on your own journey. You stop comparing and start appreciating. That appreciation makes you feel stronger, more capable, and more in control of your life. Another powerful benefit is momentum. When you record your wins, you create a sense of accomplishment that drives you to continue. Momentum is a psychological force. It makes the next action easier because you've already proven you can act. Think of it this way: completing one meaningful task gives you the energy to do another. Tracking those completions ensures you never forget the progress you've made. Without tracking, momentum fades, and it becomes easy to slip back into old habits. The practice of tracking wins also reveals patterns in your growth. Over weeks and months, you begin to see where your strengths are developing. You notice which actions consistently move you forward. That awareness allows you to double down on what works. At the same time, you may see areas where progress is slower, showing you where more attention is needed. Tracking is not only about motivation, it is also about strategy. It gives you data about yourself, and with that data you can make smarter choices. Confidence built on small wins is different from confidence based on external validation. When you rely on others for praise, your confidence is fragile. It disappears when approval disappears. But when you build confidence from within, by tracking your own wins, it becomes unshakable. You no longer need constant recognition because you have proof of your own growth. That independence makes you stronger and more resilient. It is also important to celebrate the wins you track. Celebration does not mean grand rewards. It means acknowledgement. It means pausing to recognize your effort. Too often, people move from one task to the next without ever appreciating what they've done. That lack of acknowledgement keeps them feeling empty, no matter how much they accomplish. But when you take a moment to recognize your wins, you reinforce the habit. You remind yourself that your actions matter. That simple recognition fuels your drive to continue. This practice is especially powerful when you are trying to change long-term habits. Breaking old patterns and building new ones can feel overwhelming. Progress may seem invisible at first, but if you track small wins, you see evidence of change. Each time you resist an old habit, each time you practice a new one, you record it as a win. Over time, those records prove to you that transformation is happening. That proof is essential for sustaining the discipline required for lasting change. Confidence built on small wins also prepares you for larger challenges. Big goals often require patience and persistence. Without confidence, you may hesitate to even attempt them. But if you have a history of tracking small wins, you already know you can follow through. That knowledge makes bigger challenges less intimidating. You approach them with belief instead of doubt, and belief is often the difference between giving up and pushing through. Tracking small wins is also a tool for self-awareness. It helps you see not only what you achieve, but how you achieve it. You notice which strategies work best for you. You discover when you are most productive. You learn which environments support your growth. This self-awareness allows you to design your life more effectively. Instead of guessing, you use real evidence from your own experience. Another key point is that tracking small wins builds resilience. Life will always bring setbacks. Confidence is not the absence of setbacks. It is the ability to continue despite them. When you track wins daily, you remind yourself that progress is never erased by one bad day. You build the mindset that setbacks are temporary, while growth is permanent. That resilience keeps you moving forward when others stop. This practice also increases focus. When you know you will record your wins at the end of the day, you pay more attention to your actions during the day. You become intentional about what you do, because you want to have something meaningful to write down. That intentionality reduces wasted time and keeps you aligned with your goals. In this way, tracking wins is not just a reflection, it becomes a guide for daily choices. One of the most important lessons is that confidence grows from consistency, not intensity. Doing one huge thing occasionally will not build lasting confidence. Doing small, meaningful things every day will. Tracking ensures that you see the consistency clearly. You no longer underestimate your progress. You no longer tell yourself that nothing is changing. You have proof, written down, that you are building step by step. That proof creates unshakable belief in yourself. Over time, the collection of small wins becomes your personal history of success. When doubt arises, you can look back and see the evidence of your growth. That history reminds you of your strength. It silences the inner voice that says you cannot change. It gives you the courage to keep moving forward, even when challenges feel heavy. So make the practice simple. At the end of each day, write down 3 wins, no matter how small. Do it consistently. Over weeks, you will see a record of progress. Over months, you will feel stronger. Over years, you will have built a life shaped by consistent action and growing confidence. This is how you transform your mindset and your future. Not by waiting for big victories, but by tracking small wins daily until they shape the person you believe yourself to be. Confidence is not magic. It is evidence. It is proof. And you build that proof by paying attention to what you accomplish each day. Track small wins, respect them, celebrate them, let them build the foundation of belief that carries you toward your purpose. Because confidence does not appear, it is built, step by step, win by win, day by day.
Chapter 9. Speak honestly with yourself about what you avoid. One of the hardest but most important conversations you will ever have is the one you have with yourself. Most people avoid this conversation because it requires honesty. It forces you to face truths you would rather ignore. It asks you to look at the things you keep putting off, the responsibilities you hide from, and the fears that silently control your choices. But if you want to find your purpose in everyday life, you must learn to speak honestly with yourself about what you avoid. Avoidance does not remove problems. It only delays them while they quietly grow stronger. Facing them, even in small steps, is what builds strength, clarity, and progress. Avoidance shows up in many forms. For some, it is procrastinating on work that feels challenging. For others, it is avoiding conversations that feel uncomfortable. It may be pushing aside financial responsibilities, ignoring health concerns, or neglecting personal goals. On the surface, avoidance looks like temporary relief. You tell yourself you'll do it tomorrow. You distract yourself with easier tasks. You convince yourself that you'll face it when the time is right. But deep down, you know the truth. Avoidance doesn't erase the problem, it only extends the weight of it. Honesty begins with naming what you avoid. Most people never stop long enough to acknowledge it clearly. They keep themselves busy to escape awareness. But busyness is not the same as progress. It is often a shield to hide from what you fear. When you pause and ask yourself, what am I avoiding right now? You open the door to clarity. That question can feel uncomfortable, but discomfort is the signal that you are touching on something important. The mind uses avoidance as protection. It wants to shield you from stress, rejection, or failure. That's why avoidance often feels easier in the moment. But what feels easier now becomes heavier later.
Think about the weight of unfinished tasks. Each one lingers in the back of your mind, creating tension. You may not even realize how much energy you spend carrying the things you avoid. When you finally face them, the relief is immediate. The energy you once used to avoid is freed for growth. Speaking honestly with yourself about avoidance is not about self-criticism. It is about awareness. You are not weak because you avoid things. You are human. Everyone does it in some form. But strength comes from admitting it to yourself. That admission is the first step to change. When you are honest, you take away the power of denial. You stop pretending. You stop lying to yourself. That shift alone builds self-respect, because you are willing to face the truth. Avoidance often hides in excuses. You may tell yourself you are too busy, too tired, or not ready. You may justify your delay by saying conditions aren't perfect, but perfection is a myth. Waiting for the right moment often means waiting forever. Honesty requires you to see through excuses. Ask yourself, is this truly impossible right now? Or am I creating reasons to delay it? That level of questioning reveals the difference between legitimate limitations and avoidance disguised as logic. Another way avoidance shows up is in the fear of failure. You may avoid taking action because you fear the result won't be good enough. But avoidance guarantees failure, because nothing gets done. Action, even imperfect action, creates progress. When you are honest with yourself, you realize that avoidance is not protecting you. It is keeping you stuck. You cannot grow if you refuse to act. Avoidance also appears in the form of comfort. You may avoid challenges because you prefer what feels safe and familiar. But comfort zones are traps. They feel secure, but they keep you from reaching your potential. Honesty requires asking yourself, am I staying here because it is right for me, or because I am afraid to stretch? That question is powerful. It forces you to examine whether your comfort is truly peace or simply avoidance in disguise. When you speak honestly with yourself, you gain freedom. What you avoid controls you. It lingers in your mind, creating stress. But when you admit it, you take back control. Even before you solve the problem, naming it brings relief. It turns a hidden weight into a visible challenge, and visible challenges can be managed. Avoidance thrives in the dark, but it weakens when exposed to light. Another reason to face what you avoid is because avoidance damages self-trust. Every time you delay what you know you should do, you teach yourself not to believe in your own word. You break promises to yourself, and those broken promises add up. Confidence comes from keeping your word, and avoidance does the opposite. When you speak honestly with yourself and commit to small steps, you rebuild that trust. You prove that you can rely on yourself. That trust is priceless. It is the foundation of self-respect. This practice also saves time. Problems avoided today often become larger tomorrow. The conversation you avoid becomes more complicated. The health issue you ignore becomes harder to fix. The work you delay piles up until it feels overwhelming. Honesty helps you face them early, when they are manageable. Each time you do, you save yourself from bigger struggles in the future. Speaking honestly with yourself also builds courage. It trains you to face reality instead of hiding from it. Each time you admit what you are avoiding, you build the muscle of bravery. You become someone who confronts life head-on. That courage does not just apply to one area. It spreads into everything. The more you face, the stronger you become. To make this practical, create a daily habit of checking in with yourself. At the end of the day, ask, what did I avoid today? Did I delay an important task? Did I avoid a difficult conversation? Did I escape into distractions instead of facing my responsibilities? Write down the answers. At first, this might feel uncomfortable, but over time it becomes liberating. You are no longer hiding from yourself. You are living with awareness. Once you identify what you avoid, the next step is action. Action does not mean solving everything at once. It means taking the smallest possible step. If you are avoiding a project, start with 10 minutes of effort. If you are avoiding a conversation, prepare one sentence to begin it. If you are avoiding a habit, commit to one small change. These steps may seem small, but they break the cycle of avoidance. They prove to you that action is possible, and once you start, momentum builds. Speaking honestly with yourself also prevents regret. Many people look back on their lives and realize that what they regret most are not the things they did, but the things they avoided. They avoided pursuing dreams. They avoided difficult truths. They avoided risks that could have changed everything. Regret is born from avoidance. Honesty, even when uncomfortable, protects you from that regret. Avoidance can also hold back your relationships. When you avoid honesty, you hide feelings, you avoid expressing needs, and you delay resolving conflicts. This creates distance. Speaking honestly with yourself about what you avoid allows you to bring truth into your relationships. You realize where you've been silent, and you gain the courage to speak up. That honesty strengthens trust and deepens connections. Another key benefit of this practice is clarity. When you admit what you avoid, you begin to see what matters most. Often the things you avoid are the very things that could change your life. You avoid them because they are significant, not because they are meaningless. By facing them, you direct your energy to what truly matters. That clarity guides you closer to your purpose. It is also important to practice compassion while being honest. Do not confuse honesty with harshness. The goal is not to punish yourself, it is to understand yourself. Everyone avoids something. You are not weaker for it. You are stronger when you admit it and face it. Treat yourself with patience, but do not excuse avoidance. Balance honesty with compassion, and you create lasting change. Over time, speaking honestly with yourself about avoidance transforms your life. You become more courageous, more disciplined, more confident. You stop carrying hidden weights and start living with freedom. You stop lying to yourself and start trusting yourself. You stop avoiding life and start experiencing it fully. That transformation is not easy, but it is worth it. So make honesty your daily habit. Each day, ask yourself what you are avoiding. Write it down. Face it. Take a small step toward it. Over weeks and months, you will feel the difference. The weight will lighten. The courage will grow. The confidence will deepen. This is how you find purpose in everyday life. Not by pretending you are perfect, but by facing your truths honestly and refusing to let avoidance control your path.
Chapter 10. Keep showing up until your purpose feels natural. Finding purpose is not about a single breakthrough or one perfect moment of clarity. It is about showing up every day, even when you don't feel ready, even when the results don't come quickly, even when the path seems uncertain. Purpose does not arrive fully formed. It is something you grow into by committing to the process of showing up again and again until it becomes part of who you are. Too many people quit before they reach that point. They stop because it feels awkward, or because the progress seems too slow, or because they expect purpose to feel easy from the start. But the truth is, purpose becomes natural only after persistence. You must be willing to stay in the work long enough for the work to shape you. The first few times you try to live with intention, it may feel uncomfortable. You may doubt yourself. You may question whether you are even on the right track. That is normal. Anything new feels uncertain in the beginning. What matters is that you show up anyway. The act of showing up, even when you don't have all the answers, is what creates growth. Each time you do, you are building consistency. Each time you do, you are strengthening your discipline. Each time you do, you are proving to yourself that you are serious about your life. Purpose becomes clear through repetition. The more you show up, the more you learn about yourself. You discover what excites you,
what challenges you, what drains you, and what fulfills you. You cannot figure that out by thinking alone. You figure it out by living, by acting, by engaging daily with the process. Every day you show up, you gather information. Over time, that information forms a pattern, and that pattern reveals your direction. The danger is in quitting too soon. Many people give up after a few attempts because they expect immediate results. They want the clarity to appear instantly, but life doesn't work that way. Purpose is not discovered, it is built, and building takes time. If you stop after a few days, you never give yourself the chance to see the transformation. But if you keep showing up, even on days when progress feels invisible, you eventually look back and see how far you've come. There is also a psychological reason why showing up matters. Confidence grows through evidence. Every time you show up, you collect evidence that you are capable of commitment. Even if the results are small, the act itself is proof of your discipline. That proof builds self-trust, and self-trust is the foundation of confidence. Without it, you doubt your abilities. With it, you believe in yourself enough to keep moving forward. Showing up consistently also builds momentum. Momentum is one of the most powerful forces in personal growth. When you stop and start constantly, you lose it. Every time you restart, it feels harder, because you're beginning again from zero. But when you show up daily, even in small ways, you keep the momentum alive. That momentum makes the process easier, because your actions become habits. And once they become habits, they feel natural. Another important point is that purpose is not always obvious in the beginning. You may not feel inspired every day. You may not always feel certain that you're on the right path. But purpose grows through commitment. If you wait until you feel motivated every time, you will rarely act. If you show up whether you feel motivated or not, you build a foundation that eventually leads to clarity. Feelings come and go, but commitment creates consistency. There will be days when you feel tired, when distractions tempt you, when progress seems too small to matter. Those are the days that count the most. Anyone can show up when it feels easy. The real growth happens when you show up on the days that feel heavy. Each time you do, you are training resilience. You are proving that your purpose matters more than temporary discomfort. Over time, that resilience becomes strength, and strength makes purpose natural. It is also worth remembering that purpose is not one grand destination. It is lived daily in your actions. Every time you show up, you are practicing purpose, whether it's working on your craft, improving your health, strengthening your relationships, or investing in your growth. The repetition of daily actions is what makes purpose real. Without daily action, purpose remains just an idea. With daily action, purpose becomes part of your identity. Showing up is also about discipline, and discipline is freedom. Without discipline, you are controlled by moods, impulses, and distractions. With discipline, you decide what matters and commit to it. That commitment frees you from regret because you know you are honoring your values. Each time you show up, you are practicing discipline, and discipline builds a life of meaning. Another benefit of showing up is the compound effect. One day of effort may not change your life, but many days stacked together. The results of showing up daily may seem invisible at first, but they grow beneath the surface. Eventually, they break through, and people call it success. But success is not sudden. It is the result of hundreds of days of showing up when no one was watching, when no one was applauding, when it was just you and your commitment. Consistency also reshapes identity. When you show up regularly, you stop seeing yourself as someone who only tries. You begin to see yourself as someone who follows through. That shift in identity is powerful. It changes the way you carry yourself, the way you speak, the way you think. And once you see yourself as consistent, you act consistently. Your behavior follows your belief, and your belief is strengthened every time you show up. Purpose feels natural when it becomes part of your daily rhythm. In the beginning, you may need to push yourself, but with repetition, it becomes automatic. What once felt forced becomes normal. What once felt awkward becomes effortless. That is the reward of persistence. It is not about forcing yourself forever. It is about building habits until they feel like second nature, and that only happens if you keep showing up long enough for the shift to occur. This practice also protects you from the trap of comparison. When you focus on showing up daily, you stop worrying about where others are on their journey. You measure progress by your own consistency, not by someone else's timeline. That focus keeps you grounded and prevents discouragement. Confidence grows from your own actions, not from comparing yourself to others. Another key insight is that showing up daily creates opportunities you cannot see in advance. Many people wait for opportunities before committing, but opportunities often appear only after commitment. When you show up consistently, you place yourself in situations where growth happens, where connections form, where progress becomes possible. Without showing up, those doors remain closed. With consistency, new doors open naturally, leading you further into your purpose. There will be setbacks along the way. There will be mistakes, failures, and days where you fall short. But showing up is not about perfection. It is about persistence. When you show up even after setbacks, you prove that your purpose is stronger than your obstacles. Each comeback strengthens you. Each failure faced builds wisdom. Over time, setbacks stop feeling like roadblocks and start feeling like lessons. It is also important to understand that showing up is a choice. No one can do it for you. No one can hand you purpose. You must decide that your life matters enough to commit to it daily. That choice is empowering. It means you are not a victim of circumstances. You are the one who chooses whether to act or drift. Each day gives you the chance to choose again. If you want to make this practical, start by identifying the one thing that matters most to your growth, and commit to showing up for it daily. Even if it's only for a short time each day, do it consistently. Record your progress. Celebrate your consistency. Over time, the results will speak for themselves. And when the results come, they will not feel foreign. They will feel natural, because you earned them through steady commitment. The truth is, purpose is not found by waiting for inspiration. It is built by showing up repeatedly, until it feels like part of your nature. At first, it may feel like effort. Eventually, it feels like who you are. That transformation cannot be rushed, but it can be guaranteed if you refuse to quit. So keep showing up. Show up on the easy days and the hard days. Show up when you feel inspired and when you feel tired. Show up when progress is visible and when it feels invisible. Every time you do, you are carving your path. Every time you do, you are strengthening your character. Every time you do, you are moving closer to a life where purpose is not something you search for, but something you live naturally. And when you reach that point, you will realize that the real secret was not in waiting for clarity. It was in the persistence of showing up until purpose became a part of you.